Hey, I'm on the road here in the foothills of the Catskill Mountains, returning from East Durham, New York, where I had the pleasure, and I do mean pleasure, of interviewing local female amateur boxer Riley Ute. You know, what this young lady is doing, it truly knocked me out. Okay, get this. She's juggling a rigorous boxing training routine. She's got work and graduate school all at the same time. Jeez. And she's cheerful while doing it all. Whoa. This conversation was an eye-opener for me and a whole lot of fun. And as Riley says, I want to make my own story. So join me for my interview with Riley. Hear her story, witness her determination, her intelligence, and the Irish heritage that fuels her drive. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to catch this and other inspiring stories. Now, here's Riley. Oh, it's go time. I'm sitting here with Riley Ute, amateur boxer, fighting and training out of Shots Boxing Gym in Albany, New York. Riley, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, believe me. So, listen, tell me a little bit. How did you get involved in boxing?
So, a little crazy. I used to do Irish step dance. So, where I grew up, East Durham, New York, it's a whole Irish town, and I'm from an Irish family. So, of course, we got to keep the tradition up, Irish dancing, all that. One of our family friends, they're from Ireland. He's a professional boxer, actually trains in shots boxing, Larry Friars. So growing up, we'd always come and watch his fights. And I've always had an interest in it, but I was a little hesitant at first. It's just, the sport's always just been interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up watching his fights, my dad was also a huge influence too. At the time I would do boxing fitness classes over with Coach Rick, who was also part of Shots Boxing.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it was a separate location from where we're at now. So I never took it seriously. I would goof around, do the classes, be like, oh yeah, I box, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, I would do dance, and I qualified for all nationals for All Irelands with Irish step dance. So my main focus was on dance rather than boxing. So I never took it seriously.
Can I stop you there for a minute? Repeat that again. It's All Irish.
All Ireland's national championships. So actually 2020 COVID year, we were able to go over to Ireland because I qualified for that. So my main focus at the time was dance. However, I did always have like an interest in boxing, but never took it seriously because I took it as a fitness thing.
Interesting. So when you were taking the fitness boxing classes, obviously there's no combat component there.
Right.
Did you think at all about I'm a young woman and boxing? I mean, talk to me a little bit about that. How did you see yourself fitting in?
So at the time, there were a couple other female amateur boxers. So I always felt included in that gym when it came to like the women aspect with boxing. Also, when we walked in the gym, there were a bunch of pictures and flyers of professional women boxers such as Jackie Triviano. Again, walking into the gym, I never thought I would be competing with amateur boxing. I just took it as like a fitness level thing. So, yeah.
Okay, so here you are in Ireland. You're in competition with the Irish step dancing.
Yep.
And simultaneously, you're taking fitness boxing classes, right? At the gym.
Yes.
And you think maybe you might want to speak a little bit more about how you put your toe into the water, so to speak.
I'm gonna be 100% honest. My dad was the one who introduced me to boxing. I know, right? Who wants to see their daughter get beat up? So with the fitness boxing, he'd always be like, I want like someone to come to class with me. Like he felt a little lonely, I think, when it came to the fitness boxing aspect.
Oh, so your dad is participating in the fitness boxing.
Yes.
And now he wants you to come along.
Right.
And isn't this a great bonding experience, right?
Yeah, it always is.
Did he pitch it that way?
Yeah, it's exactly how he pitched it. And then, of course, as time came on, it's like, oh, maybe you should try sparring, with the guys. And then maybe you would want to fight. And I'm like, I don't know, like, it's a little intimidating. But, over time, like doing the classes and then talking to the coaches, I knew that this is something I always wanted to do. And I always felt in place with like the other male boxers in there too. And they're like my brothers to me too. So when I first started sparring and stuff like that, I always knew it was going to be pretty safe for me because we all just want to see each other improve. So,
yeah. There's nobody kind of taking it out on you because you're a woman and they, you have no business being here. It's a very welcoming.
Yeah, it's a very welcoming. Yeah, it's a very welcoming environment. Of course, you're gonna have a couple of dudes that get a little like intimidated by it, but overall, I would say.
Who are these dudes?
Names. I'm gonna call them out. Names now. No, but overall, like the majority of the gym, it's very inclusive, and again, we all just want to see each other improve because this is one of those sports where you can't play. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah. You got to know your stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about inspiration. Are there female boxers that you look up to on a professional level that are, international or national?
Yeah, I would say my top 4 inspirations for women's boxing is Skye Nicholson. She's a southpaw over in Australia. Maisie Rose Courtney, Amanda Serrano. Love Amanda because I feel as though we have similar fighting styles. Would love that. Love that too. And that's what she tends to do a lot, her aggressive style and just throwing that too and just her rhythm too. I've noticed that we have similar patterns with that too, just like a little back and forth. But no one tops my girl, Katie Taylor, She's from Ireland. She's, in my opinion, the face of women's boxing. I always found it like an inspiration because, when she was a kid, you weren't allowed to, there was no girl boxing, but she would, dress up as a guy and just do what she wanted to do just so she can compete in that sport.
Wait a minute. She dressed up as a guy?
Yeah. Crazy,
so that
right?
She could compete.
Yeah. Just so she could do what she loves, So
wow.
It's amazing. Yeah. Wow. And she was also one of the top faces for when women's boxing was first introduced into the Olympics, the London 2012 Olympics, and she won gold.
Wow.
So
why don't you tell me a little bit about your training routine? What's a typical training day like for you?
So when I was in school last semester, I would wake up and for context, I did commute, which was like 40 minutes to where I went to school. I went to Siena College for my undergraduate degree. So I would go to my morning classes, which were like 2 to 3 hours roughly. And because I was up in Albany and I didn't want to drive back like another 40 minutes and then come back up because that's where the gym's located too in Albany. So I would go over to Planet Fitness, run 2 to 3 miles right after my classes, grab a little grub, got to fuel that body. And then the time in between, I would take not my classes, I would do my classwork, excuse me. And then I would go over to, Shots Boxing and do the classes with everyone. And then we would do like maybe 1 to 2 hours of just like exclusive mitt work, sparring. And then, I would go home and then repeat the next day.
I failed to mention, I have a joke that I usually say, and it's like, here's something you never hear. Now in this corner from Princeton University. But we're going to have to change that because this young lady not only has a bachelor's degree, but she's working on
getting my master's degree, master's in business administration.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
exciting stuff.
She's in the ring and in the classroom both. That's really great. So you're talking a little bit about your daily routine, what you're working on. What do you feel is the most important aspect of your training that you need to improve, and B, that you feel is just really essential?
So physically, definitely my running. I hate it. It's the worst part of boxing, but I know with me working with the guys, I need to have my stamina on point, especially because of how quick they are and how powerful they are. Like, don't get me wrong, like they work with me. They do keep me honest. They're not going to baby me, which love that, appreciate that the most. But I do need to make sure my stamina's on point so that I'm able to catch up and keep up with these guys.
Right.
So definitely running physically, mentally. I'm very hard on myself. So
we've heard.
Yes. We're working on it.
That's the word coming out of the gym.
She's very hard on herself.
You're your own worst enemy?
Yeah,
I am.
Do you think
you're a perfectionist?
Yes, 100%.
Does that translate like into other like academic work as well, or?
Definitely, yeah. My past 4 years of college, I've been on dean's lists, and then there was one semester where I had presidential lists. So definitely doesn't just translate in the ring; it's in and out of the ring as well. But No, I always just try to strive to be my very best because, there's a lot of people that don't get the opportunities that I have. So I feel as though it's very important to really grind in on that and just make sure I get the absolute most out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think you might need to work on your endurance a little bit?
Yes. No, not a little bit, a lot. We got to work on that.
Wow, you're blowing my mind with academic stuff. Dean's List. We're going to Ireland for
The motherland.
the motherland.
Yeah, I would definitely say dance translated into boxing because people don't realize, like, with fighting, like, there's people watching you, and that's scary enough as it is. Like, it definitely takes, like, a person to go in the ring knowing that you could get knocked out, like, in front of the people that you love or your friends or, just strangers in the crowd. So definitely dancing in front of, like, 200 people, like, on a regular basis helped with my confidence, with my performance with amateur boxing.
It's performance.
Yeah.
And it's solo. I mean, you're out there alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say dance translated some aspects into my amateur boxing career. However, do I prefer boxing or do I prefer dance? I'm going to go with boxing. So quite the transition, right?
You shared a story with me off camera about Irish step dancing and moving your feet, and you explained how the crossing of the feet.
Right. Yeah. So oh my
The
goodness.
crossing of the feet.
I remember when I first started sparring, just because it's like part of your memory, like it's on autopilot. So
Muscle memory, huh?
Coach Kyle would always be like, you got to work on the foot movement. You can't just stay right in the middle or else you're going to get hit pretty hard. So I remember, I think it was my 4th sparring session. It was the first time I sparred Julia, who's another exceptional female amateur boxer, Undershots Boxing. Love her. The first time I ever sparred with her, she, I was moving around to the left and my legs, so in dance, you have to have your legs crossed like this. So autopilot. When I moved in the ring, I would go, so your feet are crossed, balance, not there. So when she hit me with that too, I fell on the ground and I was like, yeah, we got to work on that. So I remember Kyle was training me after to keep my legs kind of like in a skateboard sort of stance too. Yeah, instead of, having your legs crossed like that. So definitely took a couple of months to get that habit out of my head when it came to boxing. So
well, you had the tactile memory of crossing your feet, so you just went on autopilot and something hit your chin, and you don't do that anymore, right?
Right. We learned the hard way. So
well, you mentioned Coach Kyle Provenzano is Riley's coach, and so why don't you talk a little bit about your relationship with Kyle and in terms of what he's teaching you in the gym, and also maybe as a little bit of a mentor, I don't know, mentorship kind of thing?
So I always tell everyone whenever they ask me about Kyle, he's like a second father to me. He's such a great mentor in and out of the ring. In the ring, a little tough love, but just to make sure I'm the very best at what I do, which, you need that, especially in this sport. You can't always be you did great with that, but, you have to be tough with this sport so you don't get, injured or severely hurt, So he's just a great mentor overall. He always tells me to keep my chin up when it comes to the rounds because, again, I'm very hard on myself and I'm working on that because I feel as though I have to be work maybe a little harder than the guys just because I'm a girl in the gym.
Now, is he telling you to keep your chin up? Like a metaphor? I mean, mentally keep your chin up, don't get down on yourself, or is he telling you? He's not telling you to keep your chin up.
No, definitely don't keep your chin up during the rounds. But no, keep your chin.
Joke.
Yeah, it's hey, how about you just keep your chin up while we up? No,
I'm sorry, Coach Kyle. I know you didn't say.
But no, just keep your chin up. Stop being hard on yourself. Which for me, it's very hard in the sport because I want to be the best that I can be in the sport too. With the amount of hours I'm putting in, and I truly love this sport. I know it's meant for me. So I want to be the best. So, he always tells me to chill, take it easy. But overall, he's just a great dude in and out of the ring. He teaches me a lot of valuable life lessons, and I could always pull his ear to talk about any personal issues in my life, and he'll always give me great advice. So
That's great when you have that kind of a relationship, that you feel comfortable doing that. That's super terrific. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Your feedback is incredibly important to me. So if you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button and the like as well. And I would appreciate it if you could let me know what you think about the video, the length, the content, because your comments will drive the content of this channel so we know what you would like to see in future episodes. And stick around. Coming up in the epilogue, you'll hear from Riley's coach, Kyle, and a revelation from her father, Simon. You won't want to miss that. And thanks for watching. And now, back to Riley. Speaking of Kyle, I just have a little sliver of video I'd like to share with you and Kyle. And tell me your thoughts, okay?
all right.
So, all right, here we are.
Oh, so this is when I was sparring another female fighter in the gym, Julia. In this clip, you can see he's telling me to make sure I use my jab. Don't get too greedy with the 1-2, because that's what I tend to do. But, it's funny, like I said earlier, like the father figure thing, you can see right here, he's kind of like, being gentle, but also telling me this is what you need to do in order to win these rounds. So, yeah, trying to keep me calm, reminding me that, I'm doing the best I can, and also having a game plan.
That's great. All righty. Well, thanks for doing that. Much appreciated. It's always good to know, like, I ask the trainers sometimes in the corner, it's like, how many things do you really say in the corner? Because how many instructions can you handle? There's a fight going on in your head, too, about, and while we're on that, speak to that a little bit. So take me into the ring. Now it's a competition. We're not sparring.
Right.
This is one of your 6 fights, let's say, or the 7th, the next fight. Walk me through that. Walk me into stepping, well, maybe preparing and then stepping into the ring, and then thought process and what's going on.
Yeah, so definitely the time before a fight is the most crucial. It's funny because, like, I'm sure you can tell, but I'm very, like, oh my God, like, bubbly and all that. Like, you wouldn't think, like, a girl like me would be in, like, this type of sport. So it's definitely hard to make that, it's definitely hard to make that transition from, just being very, like, oh, like, la 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 land, to being into,
let me interrupt you. That's a dangerous combination to be like this and then throw the punches like you do.
Yeah, like a golden retriever energy, kind of. Make that golden retriever into a black cat energy. So it's definitely a process. Like, I'm always like an advocate for saying like I won't hold back. Like, I do get very nervous before my fights because you're gonna get punched in the face. You can't. There's not like you gotta, So making that transition, it's definitely hard. I try to like focus in on like one thing at a time, and like a lot of you can definitely see it with Kyle too. Like, he has like a particular way with like coaching certain fighters. With me, he definitely tells me to focus on one thing at a time rather than overwhelming me with like too many pointers, because he knows like how I am. I'm gonna be like, well, I need to do this like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and not just focus on that one thing, and then be like, okay, like, how do I make this so then I can be the very best like in these rounds. Whereas like other fighters, they need more of the tough love. So he'll, approach the fighters being like, hey, this is what you need to work on, but you also need to work on that. Snap back into it. Whereas me, he's like, all right, you're doing great. Like, this is what we need to work on. Let's go get these rounds. So definitely like that helps calm the nerves down, because I feel as though like if I was being told like multiple things at once, I would only like aggravate the nervousness within a fight even more. So, but to calm the nerves, I'll like put on like my little earbuds, shadow box in the corner, listen to what Coach Andy and Coach Kyle have to say. And yeah, just like move around. Don't want to stay still. Definitely want to stay warm, because my legs, oh my gosh, like before a fight, my legs, they feel like cement blocks. It's
with
like
all
the
that
actual
Irish step dancing, I feel like
you would think that I'd be fine, but no, it's so crazy, because like completely off topic, but it's like with sparring, like I'm like super calm, like there's like, I feel like there's no pressure. I mean, obviously there's pressure, you know, to work on the things you need to work on in the ring, but within a fight, it's like, as soon as I step in that ring, legs, never heard of her. They're gone. Same with my arms too. My arms get pretty tired too. So it's also really important, like with sparring, to learn how to pace yourself, because that also translates into the fight, especially when I'm in that condition too. So
You took me into the ring, and now you're victorious, of course.
yeah, we'll hope. We hope, you know.
And I wanted to ask you this. Do you have any advice for any other maybe young women that would contemplate making that kind of transition from fitness boxing into actually competing?
Yeah.
And then, second part, and then speak to them. And then, if you could, if they're younger, maybe, let's say 15 or something like that, or maybe just even in their 20s, like you.
Yeah.
Parental concern. Like, what would you tell their parents if that young woman was really interested in boxing? How would you kind of allay their fears, so to speak?
So in a parent regard, definitely come to their sparring practices. I feel as though that definitely helped my dad to, you know, get used to me getting punched in the face. Because I remember my first fight, my dad's always been present with me throughout this journey with boxing thing. As we stated earlier, it's always been like a bonding experience for me and my dad. So he's always been there for my boxing, you know, practices, training, even the sparring. So him just seeing me get punched in the face, you know, it gets time to get used to that. So if you can, obviously, like, have parents like come in and like watch the sparring, just so then they get more used to what their child is going in for. In regards to like younger women boxers and just like even like women who started a little later like I did, don't let anyone tell you what not to do. Like, follow your dreams, and just, if that's something you want to do and that's your dream, chase after it.
Wow, that's great advice.
Thank you.
Man, you sound way wise beyond your years. So this is amazing.
Thank you.
So here you are. You're about ready to start on your graduate degree.
Yeah.
Okay. You're still training, and I think you told me you work as well.
Yeah, I do work on weekends, and also, well, now summer, you know, like weekdays as well, from like 10 to 6. And from there, I drive 40 minutes up, go to training, and I don't get back home until 10, and then wake up the next morning, get my miles in, and repeat it all over again. So, yeah.
Okay, well,
That's how my summer's going.
I'm a little familiar with the town, and it's not a 75-mile-an-hour straight shot. I mean, it's taking an hour?
Yeah, a lot of back roads, you know, got to watch out for the bear and deer, especially around this time of the year. A lot
Didn't
of
you tell
windy
me you had
roads.
a bear in your backyard?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I was driving home on my road, and like a mama bear and her cub passed by me, and I was like, oh my God, like, I cannot do this today. Like, I was so nervous that the bear was gonna like come after my car or something, which, you know, is also important too, because I was joking with my dad earlier, you know, he's like, how do you feel about wearing like one of those yellow construction vests while running? And I was like, that's kind of the least of my concerns running on the back roads. I'm more concerned that a bear's going to come after me and make me a second meal. So definitely have to make sure, like with running, that it's light out and just like avoid the animals.
You really have to watch out for bears.
Yeah, we've had a lot of bear recently over where I live. So
Wow.
yeah.
And I want to touch on one thing. I know you mentioned a number of times about the Irish connection.
Yes.
And I know that there is another actually pro fighter who trains in the gym, Larry Friars, who's had 20 pro fights.
Yes.
And right from Ireland, right? Right
From Ireland, right from the motherland.
Have you ever spoken to him, or do you tell me a little bit about, like, do you know him?
So Larry is a family friend, and, you know, growing up and watching him, I always knew I wanted to be just like him, you know, be a beast in and out of the ring. Even though he's a family friend of my dad, my mom, my brother, to me, he's like a mentor and an older brother, especially within this game of boxing, you know.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Larry because I know he's an important part of your life. And
Yes.
and what I want to ask you about now is looking forward in a wide way with your hopes and dreams for yourself, your future, academically, maybe work life, boxing. Where does all this fit in? My gosh, you're doing so much. So
Yeah.
tell me about what you see for Riley, the future Riley.
For future Riley, I would love to have like a stable job, you know, maybe even be a mom. We'll see. But to be quite honest, I want to make my own story with boxing and see how far it takes me. So that's my main priority right now. Again, would love the stable job, and I'm hoping that will help, you know, overall. But yeah, long-term goal is just to see how far the sport will take me and if I can make my own story for myself.
Wow, that's a great story.
Thank you.
Well, Riley, I really want to thank you for taking time out from your training and your academics and your work life and driving to and from all those different places. And I don't know when you have time to eat and sleep, but I told you, she's got grit, she's got determination, and I think you should keep an eye on this young lady because not only have you not heard the last from her, but she's got a lot of potential. And whether even boxing, academically, you got it all going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you later.
See ya.
That's a wrap. All right, I'm sitting here with Riley's coach, Kyle Provenzano of Shots Boxing Gym in Albany, New York. Kyle, if you could, can you tell me a little bit about like the process working with Riley as coach? Tell me a little bit about when you first started working with her, maybe her progression, things that you are working on.
Yeah,
there.
the things we're working on have obviously changed over the time. I don't even know how long we've been working. It's a couple years. We've had her since her first amateur fight was with us.
How many amateur fights has she
She's
had?
5-1. She's
5
had
and
6, which for a guy that would equate to like 15 or 20 for a guy because it's hard to get girls. For sparring, I'm lucky we have a really good amateur now with Julia who's got about 15, 16 fights. They spar great together, and then Riley will work with the guys who work with her, and depending on who it is. But yeah, the things that have changed. A lot of what we work on now is almost body language, looking, mental strength. I mean, we're always working on physical tools, getting in better shape. We've really been developing her jab. She's a right-hand happy fighter with 1-1-2 jab jab cross, which is great. We've added in I think we've improved her left hook and her body punching. We improved her defense a lot. She's learned that a lot, and now a lot of it is she's very hard on herself. So a lot of what we do is after a round, maybe it's not good, get your head up, walk back to the corner. It's over. You have to get that out of your head. It's like baseball. You have to strike out in the bat. You can't bring that with you next to the bat because you're going to be, so same thing in a round. You have to get rid of that round and focus on what's next. So a lot of what she does with that, it's just because she's hard on herself. She just wants to succeed. I'm still young, and we'll see where it takes us.
Apart from boxing, can you talk a little bit about Riley as a person, her character? I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're the coach. I want to have you tell us what you see, those, I guess, intangibles.
Yeah. Very coachable. Very coachable. She looks you in the eye. You tell her to do something, she's going to try to do it, which is a very good thing to have. We work with both. Most fighters are, but some aren't. So she's very coachable. She's a hard worker. She communicates, which I like. She's not going to be in the gym. She lets me know. If I tell her to do something outside the gym, I know it's going to get done. And those are all things that sounds basic and simple, but I want to say they're rare, but not everybody is like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So she's going to give you her best. She's living a boxer's lifestyle outside of the gym, which is good. But great family, always happy, always a pleasure to be around.
So, in closing, where do you see her future?
I think we take it week by week, fight by fight with her. She's still improving. Even today in the sparring session, she did some things that we've been working on and started to click defensively using the jab. She's in great shape, so it's just expanding her offensive toolbox with developing that left hook more, developing the body work more, her confidence, getting that up. Not that it's bad, but again, like I said, she is tough on herself, so I want to make her sure she believes in herself. Come fight day, she always shows up. She doesn't freeze during a fight. Even her first amateur fight, she was in tough with a girl with 1 or 2 fights. The girl, she got a standing 8 count in the first round, and she came back and beat the girl. So for your first fight that happened, she weathered the storm and came back. But we trained for that in the gym, which helped. But I would like to, long-term goal, maybe get her out to a nationals and see what we can do. Short-term goal, I'd like to get her 5 or 6 more fights before we do that. That way she'll have about a dozen fights, and we could take a shot. I'm not saying we're going to go out there and win it, but I'd like to get some competition out there and see what happens. I don't know if she'll ever go pro. That's something that we'd have to see how her development goes, and over the course of a couple of years. I think she's only 21, 22. So, again, not as much, the road, the path to that stuff with a female fighter isn't as long as a male fighter because there's not as many fighters. Now, she has a pretty good situation right now where she has the time to get to the gym, and we'll take it from there. If she decides tomorrow to hang it up, no problem. But I think she's pretty dedicated. She wants to be here.
Well, from what I've seen in the ring and out of the ring, she's a girl with grit.
Yeah.
She
Absolutely.
definitely comes, and she's going to give you 100%. So it seems in
very tough girl.
Yeah.
Smiles all the time outside the ring. In the ring, she's tough and she's aggressive, and she will try to take your head off with her right hand. You know what I mean? So it's good.
All right.
It's
Well,
good.
Kyle, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you tell me a little bit about balancing the academic life with the boxing life?
We talked about this one for a while, and again, it's one of those things, one of the things I kept saying to her over and over again was what do you want your story to be? Do you want to be 53 years old and be known as a hard worker? Or do you want to be 53 years old and tell stories like, hey, in my teenage years, I was invited to an Irish step dancing competition in all Ireland, competing against the world's best dancers. Hey, when I was 22, I decided that I was going to take boxing serious. And I told her, if at the end of the day, if you want to take a break from school for a year, if you want to go to work, if you want to concentrate solely on boxing, it's whatever your heart wants to do, because at the end of the day, once again, how important is all this stuff? Make yourself happy. So with all that being said, when she graduated, she ended up applying for this job that many students applied for. It was an internship at Siena that you were going to be promoting Siena. And she ended up getting it. Oh. And it was an opportunity to pay for her master's degree, work 20 to 30 hours, some weekends, and get paid an hourly rate as well.
Okay.
And once again, weighed very heavy on my daughter. And, we just talked about it. At the end of the day, she said, Dad, if I take this job, I won't be able to box anymore. And I think that's the answer. I said, Aunt Riley, you can beat yourself up every night thinking about if I should take this job because it'll pay for college and money and work on my resume, or you can just follow your heart, which told you right now that you're not going to be able to box no more.
Yeah.
So she chose to decline the job. And funny as it is, just last night they reached out again for her for that job. So she had to turn it down twice.
So let me understand this. So they offered her an internship that would pay for her graduate tuition?
Yes.
And she turned it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
to commit to pursuing boxing because she knew she couldn't do both of those.
Yeah.
Let me say that again.
Yeah.
I mean, right away as a dad and as a family, that's, well, it's powerful.
Powerful. Yeah.
That's for sure.